So one day I was checking out our local trail running routes while simultaneously wondering what is the most important aspect of a web design process. Of course, there are a lot of important stuff in a big project like that, but if I had to pick one thing that would make everything else easier, it would probably be the kickoff meeting. So today we're gonna go through my presentation template for the first meeting of a website project. If you're new here, hello, my name is Janne, I'm your designer friend from Finland. You can find the link to the presentation in the description, and there's also timestamps if you'd like to skip. And while you're at it, do me a favor and leave a like and maybe even a comment. Okay, here is the presentation. It's a Google Slides document, as you can see. You can make a personal copy right from here. And of course you can download it in PPTX or PDF if you'd like. The first page is a template info, just because there are a lot of stuff in this presentation, so you will not be able to go through all of them in one sitting. And one other thing before we jump to the actual content, if you'd like to edit the footer or the background of this presentation, you can do it from the slide and edit theme menu. The darker slides are title slides, and the mustache brackets identify the fields you should fill with the project info. As in every good presentation or meeting, you should have some sort of outline. Here's the agenda, and I have my favorites in here. So goals and expectations, project phases and communication, your clients, meaning the client's client, and your preferences, meaning the client's preferences. Goals and expectations. I like to start with this very simple question: what do you expect from this project? And this gives me another possibility to listen what are the main objectives for this project. And of course the client can list all the things they want to see, and it's of course my job to fulfill all those needs. Sometimes this might feel like repetition, but I'd rather over communicate than miss a crucial point, especially in the beginning. Then phases and communication. So of course, two crucial things considering communication. Where does the communication happen? The medium? Do we have a digital home for the project like Slack or Basecamp or even Teams? And how often do we meet? I'd like to meet once a week, but that's up to you and your client. Then I have a timeline. This of course depends on your process, but I like to show that this is the timeline we are trying to hit. There are weeks and deadlines and phases and so on. You can of course edit this the way you like. And a launch goal. I always like to put some sort of deadline for the project. It motivates me and it motivates the client. Those are the practical things for the project, and then we get to know your client. So put your client name here and ask them to tell about their business. Here are some example questions you can use. Of course, you can go very deep with these, but we're not going to go that deep in here. Next step is customer personas, and I really like them. The main idea is to empathize with the end user of the website. Here is a short description and an example persona and the factors you should discuss. A similar tool is Empathy Map, and it looks like this. So here's a basic description, and the important things are what the customers see and feel and do and say. I usually do this or the personas, so one or the other, but of course you could do the empathy map for all of your personas if you'd like. Continuing with the theme of customers, we have a buyer's journey or customer's journey, whichever you prefer, and it is basically a map of the touch points the person needs to take to become an actual customer, usually a happy one. You can map this journey quite extensively, but in here we have just a simple 4-level framework for you to follow. So here are the stages: awareness, consideration, decision, and nurture. And here are the touch points and some examples for you to get started. And this is of course a thing you can fill with your client about their customers. Moving on to a bit more technical stuff, keyword research. So this of course relates to Google and search engine optimization. I usually leave this to the second meeting of the project, but I always find time to discuss this with my clients. Here's a short description and 4 categories which should help you finding the possible keywords. After the meeting, I will run these through a keyword tool. At this point in time, I use Google's basic keyword planner and SEMrush. Competitor analysis. So at least you should check out the main competitors and their websites and make sure that you don't design something too similar to those ones. But again, we have a small framework, just a list about the good stuff and the not so good stuff about specific competitors. Of course, you could go very deep to competitor analysis and make your thesis about them, but this is a 80-20 of the competitor analysis. To this point, we have gathered facts and information, and now we're moving on to a bit more opinionated stuff like brand attributes and preferences. It might be that your client already has a well-defined brand, then you might want to skip this part, or you might end up as the visual identity designer. Just make sure that you put a price tag on that. In any case, I like to ask the client to explain the brand to me, just in case that I have made some assumptions. The brand attributes is again a tool where we try to distill the essence of the brand to few words, usually 3 or less. And we can do it by answering these questions, like in a year, how does the company sound and how does the company feel? These are usually adjectives, and I have a list of them right here. This might be more difficult than you think, especially for your client who does not do this regularly. And it might help to exclude some adjectives. For example, our brand at least is not relaxing or retro or romantic. Another way to understand the brand is to use this WordPress. You could just ask your client that if they had to choose a place on this spectrum, where would they put their brand? Is it more innovative or more traditional? And you can just drag these markers when you have the discussion. So those were the brand attributes, but on top of that, your client, the actual person, might have some preferences. And I like to go through them just by plainly asking, do you have some wishes and definite no-nos? This is in a way a safety question that gives the client opportunity to voice every concern or wish that they have. For example, they can be very practical, that they want a Instagram feed and the copyright text in the footer, and that's it. Or it might be something more general, like they just hate the color pink. Sometimes this is an easy question, but just in case, to spark the conversation, I usually have some examples within the field and outside the field. The last 2 tools for this presentation are sitemap and feature mapping. Sitemap, I usually just build it based on this first conversation, so it will come up in a later meeting. I trust my expertise more than the opinions of the customer, but of course it's a discussion to have. And feature mapping, in my projects, there are not like a lot of features to be mapped, so I usually skip this. But if you want to do this, here's a framework for this too. So there are must-haves and nice-to-haves and just for giggles. And as for the closing part of the kickoff meeting or presentation, It's always good to communicate clearly what happens next. So what you are gonna do behind the scenes and what the client should do. So I have a small timeline. You can of course edit this to your needs, and a homework slide. So if there is something the client needs to do, like collect text and images, it's good to once again remind them about those. So that was my presentation. If you got something out of it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. In return, I promise to do my best with these videos. But until the next time, bye.